everybody, Gage here from Sharp. Excited to have you with me for another episode of Battle of the Blades. We've got an exciting episode today, I think. Three really cool knives. We've already done the bunka Battle of the Blades, but we've got some new bunkas in stock. So we figured we'd battle three new bunkas for you to check out for your viewing pleasure. In today's episode, we're going to be checking out the 180mm Hatsukokoro Kurouchi bunka, the 165mm Mutsumi Hinoura bunka, and finally the 180mm Motokyuuichi bunka. All three of these guys are made from carbon steel. The Hatsukokoro and the Motokyuuichi are both ironclad, and the Mutsumi Hinoura is stainless clad. So we'll start with the stainless clad knife. Mutsumi Hinoura is the son of Tsukasa Hinoura, who makes all of the river jump Damascus knives that you may have seen if you're a Japanese knife nerd like us. So he's been learning from one of the best bladesmiths in Japan and arguably the world. So he makes fantastic stuff. This knife is no exception. Shirogami number 2 at the core with the stainless cladding. Beautiful Kurouchi finish. Really nice tall blade on it. Probably the curviest of the three that we're going to battle today. Octagonal shaped handle made from burnt chestnut and buffalo horn ferrule. Its balance point is right about here. And the fit and finish on this guy is really nice. Not the most well sanded spine and choil that I've ever seen in the world, but certainly not the worst, and has a really nice feel in the hand. A little bit blade forward because of that forward balance point there. And a really beautiful looking knife. The video might not do it justice, but in person, this guy's a real looker. Going into this battle, I am putting my money on this guy, though there are some things right off the hop that might change my mind, which is how sort of curvy this blade is. So we'll see how that translates into the push and pull cutting, which is typically a motion that I use. So I may end up changing my mind by the end of this video. Next, we'll move on to the Motokyuuichi. This guy is made from Aogami number 2, has an iron cladding on it, walnut handle with black packawood ferrule, octagonal in shape, suitable for righties and lefties. Balance point is right about there. So a little bit further back towards the handle than the Mutsumi Hinoura, but still really nice feel in the hand. Again, not the nicest sanding I've ever seen in my life, but still very comfortable. No real sharp edges or anything like that. And this guy's got a really flat profile on it. So this being the most affordable option that we're choosing, I'm interested to see how this guy performs in comparison to the other two knives. But yeah, a really cool knife. Finally, we're gonna check out the Hatsukokoro Kurouchi. This guy is probably the least tall blade that we're gonna look at, and probably the flattest blade that we're going to look at. Forged by Kajiwara-san, who works out of the Tosa region of Japan. It's got that Kurouchi finish with this cool Damascus finish on the beveling here, and it's got a forced patina on it. So that's why rather than seeing polished steel close to the edge, you're seeing that black steel close to the edge. This knife is still very reactive, as is the Motokyuuichi, I should have mentioned. But with that forced patina, it will help a little bit with preventing rust. For all three of these knives, if you're looking for a way to get a nice patina started on them, go out and buy yourself a pack of sausages, roast them in the oven, and slice them up with your knives, and it'll create this really beautiful patina on your knife that will help protect it from rust. This knife has a beautiful wenge handle with buffalo horn ferrule on it. It too is octagonal in shape, so suitable for righties and lefties. Again, not the greatest sanding on the spine and choil, and probably the worst out of the three, but still no real sharp parts here. Good amount of space for your middle finger when you're using a pinch grip on this guy. So yeah, it should be a very interesting battle today, to say the least. So we'll see how that all translates into cutting performance. So without further ado, let's start chopping some veg. All right, first knife we're going to talk about is the Motokyuuichi bunka at 180mm. This guy's ironclad again. I really enjoyed this knife a lot. It is definitely reactive, so you do have to be very mindful of that when you're using it, making sure you wipe it down, keep it clean, keep it dry, all that stuff. But That nice tall blade and that nice flat profile really lent itself well to my style of cutting. I'm more of an up and down, push and pull sort of chopper. I like to use the drawing motion with the tip of my knife, and I found that the wedging on this knife was it had the least wedging of all three of the knives that we used today. Going through those carrots was super, super nice. Making the cut through the sort of meatiest part of the carrot felt really easy with this guy. There was maybe a little bit of cracking as we came through the ingredient, but it was very minimal. The tip on this guy is really nice and thin, so it did those round cuts really nicely. The only qualm I think I had with this guy was cutting the cheeks off of the carrot as we were squaring it off. It probably performed the most poorly in that regard of all three knives, but other than that, this guy really, really performed at a very high level. So I was super impressed with the Motokyuuichi. Scallions were super easy, pushing or pulling. I did find the pulling motion a little bit easier. The rocking motion actually was pretty decent on this knife, which was surprising because of how flat the profile was. But rocking through those bell peppers was really easy. So yeah, all in all, I really have nothing bad to say about this knife. It felt really great in the hand and performed really well. Next, we've got the Mutsumi. Now, I'm sure a lot of you out there, gravitate towards knives that I find aesthetically pleasing. And this knife out of the three, to me, was the most beautiful looking knife. When I was using it to cut, I was very, very impressed with it, but it did sort of let me down a little bit, especially when compared to the Motokyuuichi. Going through the carrot, I did experience a little bit of wedging. The edge geometry on this guy is amazing, but it does have some shoulders here when we're getting up to the shinogi line, and it stays relatively thick in the blade. So the sort of the geometry isn't quite as gradual as the Motokyuuichi. It is definitely like sharper at the edge. So when you're doing like onions, I found easier with this guy, but only marginally. The yellow onion and the scallions I found a little bit easier to work with on this guy. Bell peppers, when using push and pull motion, was really nice. It was almost too sharp when using the rocking motion. I was finding it getting kind of stuck in the board a little bit, which is an interesting problem to have, but yeah, super, super sharp. So I'd imagine if you're using this guy for like super intricate, delicate work, shallots, garlic, chilies, all that sort of stuff, where like the height off the board isn't as tall, this guy's going to perform really, really well. But I have to be honest, I found the Motokyuuichi performed a little bit better than this guy overall. Last knife we're going to talk about is the Hatsukokoro Kurouchi. I was really impressed with this knife. Really flat profile, so I found this guy was probably the best for the scallions. That push and pull motion with this guy was really, really nice. It did actually perform quite well at the rock as well, which is always surprising with such a flat blade. Onions performed really well also. The carrot was good. I would say going through the thick part of the carrot was a little disappointing. I mean, any knife in the 180, 165 millimeter range is going to have a bit of a tough time doing those cross cuts on the carrot. The tip work, drawing the tip through, was super, super nice with this guy as well. Onion performed super well in the onion. Bell pepper performed really well also. At this level, it's just kind of like the little things, I guess, that make the biggest differences. And while I really enjoyed this knife, I would say it was probably my least favorite of the three, though. If I hadn't tried these two and I was only testing this guy out, I'm sure I would find it to be really exceptional. It does have more of an aesthetic that I go for. The Mutsumi and the Hatsukokoro aesthetically are probably a little more in line with what I go for. And recently I've been really enjoying the knives that are a little thicker out of the spine, but really thin behind the edge. So I just really loved the way this one felt in my hand, even though it may not have performed like quite as well as the Motokyuuichi on certain things. This guy has a similar hand feel. It's a little thinner at the spine, and it's not quite as tall. So I definitely gravitate more towards the taller blades. Cutting the cheeks off the carrot, this guy was definitely the best, and then turning it into planks, I definitely enjoyed this one the most. But overall, the winner for today was definitely the Motokyuuichi. Funnily enough, it is the most affordable of the 3 knives that we're testing out today. Though it is not cheap, it's still in the I think it's like $170 right now. But if you're looking for just pure performance, and some people this is a beautiful knife. It's got a really cool polished nashiji finish on it. It looks really cool. It's got a nice high clad line on it as well. And I would imagine if you put a little work into polishing the bevels on this guy, thinning it out just a little bit, it would perform even better at some of those tasks that these guys beat it out on. So overall, the Motokyuuichi takes the cake today, but very close. It was a 3-horse race today. Came right down to the wire. Any of these 3 knives is going to perform at a really high level, and I think you'd be happy with any of them. But objectively, the Motokyuuichi was my favorite. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, these 3 knives will be up on the site as scratch and dent. You've seen what we've used them for, so very gently used. They got a little bit of patina on them, but all in all, a great deal for 15% off on all 3 of these knives. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, smash that like button, subscribe to our channel for more knife-related content. Until the next one, stay sharp.